In terms of the timeline, how long do you think these pilots will run before there is a decision made to convert it into pan-China trading scheme?
Well, there is a timetable. These regional pilots are expected to be up and running by early 2013, and eventually they'll emerge into national markets. The national markets will be built with these as the building blocks. The hopeful goal is 2015, but it's subject to further modifications as things develop.
So, you are from the exchange, and probably that's one of the entities which will be in most focus for any kind of emissions trading. How is your exchange preparing for these pilot schemes?
Oh, we are very excited about this opportunity and very much encouraged by the policy development. So currently we are working closely with the Tianjin government, the municipal government of Tianjin, and we help the government to set up these regional ETS in Tianjin. Now Tianjin is a city that's included in three kinds of, I would say, all low-carbon, national level low-carbon pilots in China, because I should try to clarify this. There are different kinds of low-carbon pilots. The low-carbon pilots itself asking cities and provinces to develop a low-carbon economy, and there are pilots to prepare GHG inventories, and also pilots to establish regional ETSs. Tianjin, for example, is included in all three kinds of pilots, so it's really a city that enjoys a lot of attention from the national government as an explorer or pioneer of low-carbon development. In this regard, I will add that Tianjin has already engaged itself in the preparation of a GHG inventory, because data is most important for the development of markets. Now, with the data in hand, the government will then consider different plans or options for setting up the allowances and allocating allowances, etc., etc. That's the nitty-gritties. And we, the exchange, is engaged in the entire process. We help the government, we offer technical support, and also policy recommendations. And I should add that very happily. Earlier this year, Tianjin Routine Climate Exchange was designated by the local government as the platform for all the environmental markets in the Tianjin area, and are also authorized to perform market management duties. We are not a regulator. We are subject to the government's regulations. But we perform this market management duty so that we may engage ourselves in the organization of the market and help the government develop the market system. So it's a complicated process, but I think it's very good.
Yeah, so what I understand is that besides being a simple exchange, your exchange is doing many other kinds of activities which will enable a healthy market to develop in the future. I'd like to pick up on the data point which you mentioned. What kind of data collection is going on right now? Is it like, the carbon footprint of industries, how many companies are there? Or, what's the kind of data collection going on?
The national government has a number of cities and provinces to prepare GHG inventories for the baseline year of 2005. Why 2005? Because the national target is calculated with that as the baseline. So that preparation is underway. It's coming to completion very soon. And with that, we will be able to have a rough estimate of GHGs for subsequent years. And then with that kind of data, we'll be able to plan and decide on what sectors to be covered by different regional meetings. Right, that's the sequence of things.
Which agency or which regulator will eventually decide, basis this data, which sectors will be covered? Will it be the provincial governments or it will be some other regulator?
Well, I think we will join decision by several bodies of government. Because it's kind of an issue. It has an impact on our development, and an impact on the emissions, but also energy usage, etc., etc. So it really requires good liaison between the different parties of government, so that the overall plan will be the best option for the region.
And if I may ask, which entities are engaged in this data collection at the moment? Are there some government agencies or other auditors who are going to the companies and collecting the data?
The government is taking the lead in collecting the data with the help of professional entities, including institutions of higher education and research institutes.
Interesting. And one question which I think many of the audience will really have is, China has been such a big success story in the world of CDM. It was enabled by, of course, the Chinese project developers, but also by the various DOEs in Europe, and of course the buyers in Europe. What role do you see for the DOEs and the buyer of carbon credits in Europe in these schemes?
You mean in the regional?
Yes, in the regional ETS and the pilots, and if and when they become up and running.
Well, I think any successful market really requires a high degree of division of labor. So in the regional ETS, we need a trade exchange in the platform. We need suppliers and sellers. We also need verifiers. We also need auditing firms. And we need a good regulatory framework. So there will be growth for these different participants in the market.
Right. And is there anything which they can do today in order to prepare for that future?
Well, I say it's always good to start communication as soon as possible. The development of the market is really a learning process for all the parties involved. And the learning process there is also the opportunity of exchanging views and creating new interest. So this process there are a lot of seminars, training sessions, conferences, and it is very helpful if people can talk to each other, and then we in the region can learn from experiences perhaps from other parts of the world.
Talking about the experience part, are you currently engaged in discussion with any international organization or private companies in order to learn from what mistakes and what success stories are there in, let's say, like the European system or the American system?
Yes, of course. We engage ourselves in such communications all the time. So it's employ the opportunity to talk to people who have experience in this area, to learn from their successes and failures, and also perhaps to prognosticate for the future.
Right. And is there any particular agency which you have a formal agreement with? Can you name it?
I think it's better not to name any particular agency because we talk to a lot of friends and colleagues.
I think that's interesting because I think the more you speak to people, maybe better ideas and better developments will occur in the exchange. Right. Very interesting what's happening there, and I think our colleagues all over the world really look forward to one day participating as traders and verifiers, and of course buyers and sellers in these schemes. I will like to move on to the next stage of the interview now, which I think will conclude our discussion. For the first time, the EU is going to include aviation sector in the ETS, and starting 1st January 2012, many Chinese airlines are covered under the ETS by the European Union. Do you know, are you following that discussion, and what do you know what is the status and what are the Chinese airlines trying to do about it?
Well, I must say, because I come from a legal background, I'm very interested in the Union and in the legal process. But it's also a very sensitive issue, as you know.
And so, is there something you can tell us? Like, is there an official representation? Because we do keep on hearing that the Chinese delegation went to Brussels in order to, put forward a case that, China can probably take domestic actions which are equivalent in nature. Is there any discussion on those points in the exchange, with the exchange?
Well, I must say there has been quite a lot of discussion on this topic in China, both public domain and in private circles. It's really a complicated matter, and the Chinese official position is very clear. we oppose any unilateral action taken by the EU in the name of climate change to implement measures that will dishonor the principle adopted in 1992, which is commonly differentiated responsibilities. And I would look at the EU's action from various angles. Most broadly, I would say now we are heading towards Durban, even though the pessimism goes to hope to have some progress on international negotiations. And I believe that a unilateral action taken by the EU at this time is quite harmful to building mutual trust between the EU on one hand and developing countries in particular on the other hand. Developing countries have long feared that developed countries, in particular the EU, have not fully acknowledged their efforts and endeavors in fighting climate change. So it may be a problem of communication, but this kind of mutual misunderstanding is not entirely conducive to having progress on international negotiations. So that's one angle. The other angle is that sometimes I wonder what's the basis for the EU's way of calculating the emissions of flights entering and leaving the EU. But this may bring us into complicated waters, but I'm saying this not on behalf of any party, but only on behalf of myself. I would say the EU may regulate flights traveling within the EU because it's their jurisdiction. And it may calculate emissions on the basis. So for a flight, say, from Beijing to Paris via Berlin, perhaps, we may calculate the emissions for the flight once it enters the EU jurisdiction until it arrives safely in Paris. But for the parts outside EU jurisdiction, I don't see a practical or legal basis to accept that, to incorporate that into the calculations.
I think that's a fair point, and I think that's the point of common but differentiated responsibility. Maybe is still a thorny issue, which the developing countries, and I think rightfully so, do keep on bringing back to the table. And EU ETS aviation is just another point where that is again brought in focus. One question there. In the data collection for various the regional trading schemes, is any airline being targeted as well? Are they being asked to report their emissions? Any Chinese airline?
But then I have not been following this.
I'd really like to thank Dr. Tang here, who really spent quite a lot of time with us today talking about the emissions design, the policy, and of course the aviation scheme. We are here at the Carbon Forum Asia 2011 in Singapore, and I hope you'll join us in other post-2012 interviews, which we'll be conducting across the day and in future as well. Thanks a lot, Dr. Tang. Thank you.
Thank you very much.